Welcome to Defining Moments. I'm Suzanne Quast, and today I have the effervescent Lindsey Morgan. She's one of the biggest up-and-coming Latina actresses, and she's one of the hardest working artists that I know. Her hard work has paid off. She was nominated for a Daytime Emmy for her role on General Hospital, and now she plays Raven on the hit CW sci-fi drama The 100. Today, she's going to talk to us about how she was able to cultivate her work ethic and discipline, how she made big, bold, brave decisions early in her career, and why she says you should always believe in yourself. This woman is a powerhouse, and I am so excited to share. Here are her moments.
Beating like the sound of love, reflecting light.
Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
I'm so excited. We've already been talking up a storm before it's even started.
That's true. Well, we haven't seen each other in years.
And we met, actually, we were in acting class together for a brief period of time. Shout out to John Rosenfeld. We love you, John.
We love you, we miss you.
You know, there's something I never really told you when we were in class together.
Ooh.
And that's that I really, I genuinely admired you.
Suzanne!
I'm serious. You always worked really hard. You came in and you were super prepared. You gave so much, not only to your scene partner, but to the people in class. You really elevated the entire class. And no, I'm serious.
You were blushed.
And, you know, it's something I had heard too was that when you first started the 100 in Vancouver, you then signed up for an acting class up there.
I did.
And I remember hearing that and I was like, damn, this girl's work ethic and discipline is insane. Where do you think you cultivated that work ethic?
I think it's from a multitude of places, but my biggest attribute I can qualify all this to is that I had started acting at a later age. I was just very aware of my lack of knowledge and my lack of experience. And it was kind of like I went all in this aspect and didn't have a plan B for it. And because I didn't have a plan B, I had to make this work. And so I remember I actually read Arnold Schwarzenegger's biography. Random.
Interesting.
Random. And he mentioned that. And he mentioned about not having plan Bs. And I remember when I read it, I was in college, it really kind of resonated with me because it does force you to make it work, you know? And that's how I felt. I felt like when I started acting, I was very lucky and grateful and privileged that I kind of started working pretty quickly.
You did.
But I also was working with the idea of, I'm the least experienced person on this cast, on this stage, on this show. And I didn't want anyone to know that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it was a little bit of pride, ego, but also self-awareness. And I have, and just an undying passion and curiosity for this craft. And just kind of everything that people before me had said had resonated with me, pursued me and pushed me to better myself in all aspects. And so I think a lot of it, acting is like working out and going to the gym, especially class, when you take class, it's the performance is on set, right?
Yeah.
The performance is the game, is the championship game, with Kobe playing, and you're Kobe, right? So Kobe works out and practices 8 hours a day.
Yep.
An Olympian trains 8 hours a day. There really isn't a difference between the work you hold for yourself and them. So I was just kind of like, if Kobe can do this, I can do this.
Oh my God, I love that mamba mentality.
Yeah. So,
did you ever have a side job?
it was actually pretty funny. I actually, when I first moved to LA, I got a job by accident and I was kind of really excited about it. Yeah. I would nanny every now and then just for some side cash. But in the beginning, I was fortunate enough to make money on commercials, and I kind of lived off that. But also, my boyfriend at the time, he was a big mentor for me when I was first starting out. He was a very self-made, a director, super smart. But I remember I was interviewing for another nanny job, and the family were lawyers, and they were like, "Oh, do you have any paralegal experience?" And I was like, "No." And they're like, "Can you do secretarial work?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And they're like, "Do you want to work here at the firm?"
No way.
And I literally was just like, "Oh, okay, sure." So I was like, "Cool, I got a job." And I remember I'd gone home. I was like, "Babe, I got this cool lawyer job." And he looked at me like I was absolutely insane and was like, "Quit right now." And I was like, "I can't quit. I just got."
I've had it for 5 seconds.
And he was like, this isn't your, he's like, "This isn't your plan A. You're wasting your time and distracting yourself from plan A. You don't need this job financially. You're not destitute financially." He's like, "You should be grateful for that and put all your passion and all your energy into plan A." And it was actually John Rosenfeld also helped me. I remember I was in class starting out, and I was having money troubles, and I expressed to John, I was like, I need to stop class because class was expensive. And I couldn't afford it. And John literally told me, I will repeat, told me to go into debt.
Wow.
He said, "Go into debt, Lindsay. You need it." He's like, "You will book a job and it will all make sense." And he actually put me on scholarship for that month. I remember it was October, for that month of October. And I kept going to class and I kept working. And probably by January is when I booked my soap opera that I was on. Yeah. So it all,
Yeah.
But sometimes when you're in the middle of it and you're trying to figure it out and you're younger, you get sidetracked, you get distracted, you get worried, you get scared. And so you start making fear-based choices, and that can take you on a different path. And if I hadn't listened to my boyfriend or to John at the time, who were telling me to make brave choices in myself, telling me to risk something and risk going into debt and to focus on plan A, even if plan A is harder to obtain than easy plan B, that's the journey.
Talk to me a little bit about your process as an actor. Like, what does that look like for you?
So mine is, everyone's different, and I'm sure yours is completely different from mine, but mine is really all about understanding the world, understanding this world and this genre and this style and this story. Because as an actor, you are just one small piece in the world. And when you think of the shows or films you love that world. You love the world of Back to the Future, or you loved all the kick-assness from Kill Bill and the assassin culture they're in. So it's a full life. And I almost look at it like it's parallel universes. And I'm almost like jumping into another world in that sense of when I'm in the 100 or another project. And that's the world we live in. And there was a past and there's a future, and just really understanding that. But also voice is a big part for me.
Ooh, okay.
Finding where, for Raven, I pitch her voice a little deeper because she is so in command and she is so strong and she doesn't take shit from anybody. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'll pitch it lower, and because that's where she resonates. And also her body. I'm very, very physical in that way. And because your emotions are in your body. And it's almost like, if you ever, this is weird, but if you ever worked out or had a massage, you start crying.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah, and you're just like, am I a psycho? And everyone does it. And it's because our emotions are trapped in different parts of our body, and you can access it. So when I create new characters, I always look at my world, I find my voice, and I find my body, how they move, how they hold themselves, where they are in that sense. And Raven's a really good example of that, because she is so kind of tough. I always have her, chest up, shoulders back, like she's ready, right? And then even when she's paralyzed in one leg, so now it's changed her gait, but she still has a strong gait despite her handicap. So it was about finding that movement too. But I remember I played a girl named Debbie on a film called Summertime. It was this very rom-com movie, and and she's very sexually free. And so for Debbie, she was very like in the hips, you know, and she was a dancer. And so if you look at people, I look at my friends and I think about them and I'm like, oh, where do they hold themselves? Where do they move from?
So interesting. You're right. Because if you start looking at the people around you,
Completely.
the way they talk or the way they walk.
Their mannerisms,
Yeah.
exactly. And it was like, I had one girlfriend that was a burlesque dancer, and I actually talked to her about Debbie, and she doesn't know this, but but I based a lot of Debbie off her, and I based a lot of her movement off her, and just thinking like, oh, how would Rachel do this? Okay. And, you know, and I would put that in my body, and that helped me. It also helps me get out of me, Lindsay, and into somebody else.
Helps you be then maybe more present.
Completely. Well, it's kind of like a good example would be Raven, right? Her world is very dark, very heavy, post-apocalyptic, death threats. We're always life and death, right?
It's very heavy, yeah.
It's very, Lindsay's like, hey, you know, and like bouncing around like, oh, and Raven is not that. So there's times I'd go into set and I'd be like, oh my God, I'm in such a good mood. I don't want to go into the dark place, you know?
Yeah.
And sometimes it would be difficult where you're just like, how do I access that? So it was a lot about, I'd find Raven, I would do some push-ups and I'd find Raven in that sense, or I'd start walking like her and I'd find her back in that sense, and it's like I could slip back into that body. So
that's cool.
Yeah.
Well, then what was the audition process like for that?
So they'll laugh.
Was it on tape? I'm assuming because it's in Vancouver.
100%. Yeah. That was funny because I actually, you know, I was up for another job, of course, and I was really like hoping for. I was waiting to hear back. I was like the producers select and all that stuff, and I just needed approval from the showrunner, and so I was just like waiting, and they're like, okay, next week, you know, a couple of days, they're still deciding. So pins and needles, right? Mm-hmm. And then Raven just kind of came out of nowhere, and I kind of. It was funny, it was Brittany from John's was actually who coached me on it. And I remember I got it in class and I was like, I have this audition tomorrow. I don't really know. And they're like, okay, just do it, cold read it and just put it up. And it was one of those auditions or one of those pieces to where it just didn't really have to try. It was a very effortless feel. You know, it's almost like when you're shopping for a dress and there's just like that one that just fits and you're just like, oh, this is perfect. Mm-hmm. So that one just fit on me. And I remember the more I started kind of investing in it, the more I would get excited about it. But also, I had zero attachment to it. You know, I was like, let it be, because I was also waiting for that other job to call, right?
Got it. So
there
wasn't the pressure off of this one.
Right. It took the pressure off, and it took off like, sometimes as an actor, I think it's easy to fall into a state of desperation and just like, God, I just need this job. I just want it. And you manhandle things. Mm-hmm. You want to force it. And I wasn't forcing Raven, but I remember I had like 3 other girlfriends going out for it too. And like one was Asian, another girl, 2 other were white. And I was just kind of like, oh, they're just open-ended on this. And because usually they want to know, ethnicity and they have that in mind, and they were just wide open. I didn't even have a last name at that point. They were just Raven. So
like 18 Madonna.
Like Madonna. 18 to 25, girl, right. You know, just seeing everyone. So that was also, I found to be really interesting because it means they were really allowing the actor to inform the character. Mm-hmm. So I like that too. So I remember doing it, and it was just kind of like, going through the rounds. It was like, you know, the first audition, then the next day was the callback, then the next day was the chemistry read. And I kind of was just like, oh, this thing's moving while I'm still waiting for that other call. And I will say, I remember because I was building my space pod, right? And I was like working on it as a mechanic. And so I flipped over my chair like it was my car. And
that's cool.
It was cool. It was super cool. But I remember the casting director, Barbara, who's awesome, like got in on the floor with me and was like,
that's amazing.
She was so in it too. So it was a fun audition. And I remember I had left the producer session with Jason, our creator, and a couple of our other producers. And Jason will say, he was like, you came in, and after that I was done. He's like, you were it. And I was just,
that's amazing.
Yeah. And he was like, that was the easiest audition I've ever had to cast, and I found that very very touching. So sometimes it is just like, and that's why I also tell my other friends or other people that ask me about acting or actors themselves who are, you know, getting frustrated about not booking a job or something. I really feel like every job is a fingerprint. And because it's a person, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, there's nobody like you. There's a lot of beautiful blonde women out there, but they're not like Suzanne. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
The same
with
way.
your story.
Yeah, your essence.
Yep.
And so I always tell people, like, it's not matter if you're good, you need to work in your craft. Your craft has to be solid, 100%. That's first. But the second one is finding the right fit, the right dress, the right fingerprint. Otherwise, even if you did the role, I'm sure you'd do good, but it just wouldn't be the same. And when you think of those iconic roles that people have played before, there's a reason why they pop so much in your mind.
You're right. What do you think you've learned now after doing Raven for 6 years, or for 6 seasons, sorry, or
It's 6 years.
6 years,
Yeah.
that you didn't know in the beginning? Like, what do you think you learned
man.
about her?
About her or me?
Ooh, both.
I learned how much a character, and I think this is something you really only experience in TV because a film is done in 2 months and maybe you do a trilogy, but it's not the same as TV where it's a 6-month schedule, an episode every 8 days, that characters can evolve by their experiences. And that was a really big theme that we play in The 100, that everything we kind of go through puts a scar on us in that sense. And I think that's very realistic to us as humans.
You're right.
Everything we go through, we change and we have ups and downs and we grow and we also evolve, we also devolve, or we go back, or we struggle, or we face obstacles. And so what I really loved over Raven's trajectory is you've seen her really I've gotten the opportunity to play a gamut of things. And also being able to come to the role with more maturity than I started with, because I grew as a person too. So that was always a really great experience for me. But also, a big thing is you can be a great actor, but it's also, it's a business. And a lot of it for me, because I was one of the less experienced, like I said, on the cast, because everyone really has been working since they were a child, kind of except me in the beginning. And I didn't understand set. I didn't understand my light and how I can help my director of photography and hitting my mark and being able to do prop work while hitting your mark and finding your light and working with the camera, and also being able to work with all the people on set and the, personalities and stimulus sometimes. I also attribute that to, like, it's one thing to be a great athlete. Like, it's one thing to be Kobe Bryant in your backyard, right?
But you're right.
It's another thing to be Kobe Bryant in front of millions in that stadium with cameras, lights are on, crowds roaring, that focus. So that was a big, big thing I learned, was that it's, because set is different than the audition process. It's different than working in class.
Well, yeah, 100%.
And it's really hard to get that experience without actually being on it and learning to master it. So that's probably my biggest thing I learned, is to understand that and to make it work for me in that sense.
What a gift.
Yeah, no, completely.
Right?
I really feel like I grew so much as an artist through this show. And the things I've learned from it, I take with me everywhere.
Well, I could literally talk to you for hours, but stop it more. But I have to get to the final round of questions. All right, so here's a couple. What's the most difficult decision you've had to make to fulfill your greater purpose?
Oh, man. I dropped out of college. Halfway through. I had a full ride scholarship at the University of Texas, and
wow, that's impressive.
Thank you.
No, I mean, I'm serious.
Thank you.
That's nothing to that makes it more difficult to walk away.
Exactly. And I had felt, I think also, I no one expected me to go into acting.
Yeah.
No, if you ask anybody I went to high school with, my parents, any of my childhood friends, they've never been like, oh, Lindsay's gonna be an actress. No.
Which is amazing.
No, I know, right? Like, what? So nobody saw that coming, which is also, I think, why there was so much surprise and pushback and, in a sense of confusion about support. Because it just sounded like I was just being insane. Like, I'm dropping out of college and going to be an actor. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Everyone's like,
what? Yeah, maybe we need to get through school first. Because that's what my parents
You're
said.
like, exactly.
And I appreciate that you were like, no. This is my passion. This is what I want to do.
Completely. But it was like, I'm pretty sure my mom wanted to have an intervention and was like, or thought it was a phase. But it was also like, you're throwing your life away. You're throwing away this huge opportunity, this gift for you. And I got that a lot, which I completely understand where it came from. But I had decided that it was my life. And, if I make it great, it's on me. And if I F it up, it's on me too. And I take full responsibility for that. So that was my decision making, is that regardless of what happens, it was my choice. And I can't blame anyone for any way it turned out, except for myself.
And they'd be very proud, because very proud at how hard you work and the effort and discipline you put in.
Thank you.
Okay, we're gonna end on this. Okay. What is the best piece of advice you were ever given?
Oh, man. That's a tough one, because I've been given pretty good pieces. I guess my biggest one I'm really understanding now is from my ex-boyfriend. We had broken up, and that was a really tough one for me. And he was a very influential part of my life. And I'd left him, and I think he was very hurt by it. But in our parting, he told me to believe in myself.
Aww.
And I thought that was such a kind sentiment from, despite you being hurt and despite a huge change, and the, breakups whenever you
No,
you know what
and
I
the
mean?
fact that he did that and had enough, he loved you that much that even though he was hurting, he said that, and that you took that away.
Yeah, and it really, really touched me, and it's been a really huge theme in my life. So I really feel like that's why I'm kind of on this journey, is because I'm really having to risk a lot, and the only way I can kind of keep it going is if I believe in myself first. So that was a big one for me. Yeah.
Well, whoever you are,
Everyone Googles this.
we think it's amazing, and we hope you all believe in yourselves, and tell everybody when they can find the 100 and what to expect.
I'm pretty sure we're back. Oh, we're back on the 100 April 30th, Wednesdays at 9 in CW. And we'll be on Netflix soon too.
Woohoo! Follow her on social media. She's the best. Thank you guys for watching.